Hello, and welcome to the Behind the Thick podcast. My name is Kip, and I am your host today. And if you're wondering why, it is because today we are ending off this season by flipping the script and interviewing...
Oh, yeah, right. I forgot I existed. I was like, she's doing so good. I'm just gonna sit back and just listen. No, I'm Faye. I'm the annoying voice that you've been listening to.
Not true. It is Fate, our
what has it
host,
been?
beloved host,
What
who
has it
is
been?
now our guest.
Several months.
Several.
I'm now the guest because I say so.
Gosh, several months now,
Sounds
huh?
so bad.
No.
It's weird to think about because I think we started May. No, not May, but maybe it was last summer.
Wow,
So it's
we're
been
coming up on a year now.
yeah,
Then
yeah.
that's crazy.
And we've done so many good episodes. All of them, it's been we knocked out of the park, and it's been so successful.
And now we get to end it with a big bang with your fic.
Yes.
So it'll be a nice way to end it off. Do you want to? Oh yeah, we should talk about the name of your fic, right? So why don't you give a little synopsis about that?
Well, okay. So as you know, I'm Fate. I've been writing fanfic I started in 2018 just because I was just trash and I was like, I want to make him kiss because I want to.
Don't we all want to?
And then and then it just kind of went from there. I gradually got a lot better because if I read for the first one I publish, I'm just gonna be like, that's not good, and it still gets likes. It still gets likes and stuff, and I'm like, guys, no,
Yeah,
guys. But
improvement has its pros and cons.
I kept at it, and I really, really found a love for writing, and I've even made a career change because of it.
Oh, nice.
And I've also found an amazing community of writers and artists because of it. And now I have a podcast because of it.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's my kind of history with fanfic. As far as this fic goes, this fic was the weirdest, most magical experience writing it because it was everything fell into place in the course of a month as far as brainstorming and outlining.
Wow.
And it was
1 month. Wow.
Yeah, it was April. It was April 2020, and I guess pandemic wise. Wait, no, was it 20? Yeah, pandemic wise, that makes sense.
Oh, so yeah.
So the pandemic hits, and I'd had this idea only for one of the scenes. Oh, I really want to do this fic with this scene and then this, but then it wasn't until the pandemic hit, ironically, that it really kicked into motion where I got all these amazing ideas.
It starts with one scene and then becomes a 20+ chapter long fic, huh?
It really does. And so it is kind of a monster of a fic, and I describe it now as magical, but also a train wreck at the same time because it's not perfect, it's chaotic, but I love it for that, you know.
A magical
I like
train.
what I was able to do with it. It's a magical train wreck. And as far as the title goes, it's so I wrote before this one fic called One Moment, which is basically Skyward Sword.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing really added to that much, so then I wanted to write a sequel to Skyward Sword and hence to One Moment, and I was like, okay, I gotta get that word in there somehow, and I thought of A Moment Beyond, which is kind of after One Moment, but fancy.
Fancy.
And that tied into how the fic accelerated in more ways than I originally intended, and it turned out really well. So that's the title.
It really did. It was a great read. I sat down, I think maybe 9 p.m. I was like, all right, let's get through this. So I got all the information I need. I stayed up until 2 a.m.
No!
just indulging in it. But it's good. You gotta binge read the big monster fics, you know? That's how you get the most flavor.
Yeah.
So This is your spoiler warning for any listeners
Yes.
who have not yet read Fate's A Moment Beyond. If you haven't yet, it'll obviously be linked in the description, and I can attest that it is a good fic, so you should be reading it. So I think we've got pretty much everything out of the way, so why don't we listen to Fate read Chapter 1?
Yes.
This is a tale that you humans have passed down through uncounted generations. It tells of a war of unmatched scale and ferocity, the likes of which would never be seen again. One dark, fateful day, the earth cracked wide and malevolent forces rushed forth from the fissure. They mounted a brutal assault upon the surface people, driving the land into a deep despair. They burnt forests to ash, choked this land's sweet springs, and murdered without hesitation. They did this all in their lust to take the ultimate power protected by her grace, the goddess. The power she guarded was without equal. Handed down by gods of old, this power gave its holder the means to make any desire a reality. Such was the might of the ultimate power that the old ones placed it in the care of the goddess. To prevent this great power from falling into the hands of evil swarming the lands, the goddess gathered the surviving humans on an outcropping of earth. She sent it skyward, beyond the reach of the demonic hordes, beyond even the clouds. With the humans safe, the goddess joined forces with the land dwellers and fought the evil forces, sealing them away. At last, peace was restored to the surface, but only for a time. After thousands of years, the seal broke, the war reigniting upon the recovering land. The goddess, reborn as immortal and rejoined with her chosen hero, defeated the great evil and brought a new peace to the land. This land was named Hyrule, as its denizens were to be of Hylia's rule. To her they owed her peace, and by her they hoped to maintain it. The ancient power shone brightly upon this golden land from the goddess's hands, as an offering to her people. However, her incarnate and her trusted knew of the shadow it could cast upon the hearts of their kind. Thus the great power was hidden beneath the goddess's statue, so that mortals would not be tempted and could live in peace. The pall of silence that hung over the temple was deafening as it echoed in her ears. She could barely hear the wisp of the wind, the calm breeze that teased a chill. Her eyes darted from one unfocused glance to another in her panic. She didn't know what to do as it all settled upon her, like it was some unsettling jolt coursing through her. Rushing out of the temple was an instinct, as if she could run away from the truth. But now it daunted before her. Quite literally, she figured, Zelda hugging her arms close as she gazed upon the statue of the goddess Hylia. Her temporary deafness subsided slowly as she did, Zelda hearing familiar boots stop in a scuffle behind her. A year, she started. An entire year. She heard a sigh behind her, the same breath voicing, "I know." "How is this possible?" Zelda asked as she turned around to face Link. "Over a year of research and nothing?" Zelda hung his head Link hung his head sorrowfully, like he was mourning the blow they had received to their hope. He didn't like seeing Zelda like this, seeing Groose like this. They put so much into all of it. Zelda started, Link popping his head back up. "I don't understand how they could just vanish without a trace." Zelda's gaze was distant, her thoughts, as a matter of fact, in a different time entirely. Yet she pulled herself out of it when she noticed Link's expression, his brow furrowed in contemplation, his eyes conveying a particular fear. "Link?" Zelda prompted cautiously, Link's eyes hesitantly trailing to hers and then away. "What is it?" "Nothing," he said nervously, backing away slightly. "No," Zelda insisted. "You have something on your mind, I can tell." Link sighed, closing his eyes and opening to lock them strongly with hers. "I didn't want to say anything, but," Link started. "Recently, I've been thinking." Zelda's gaze didn't move, focused intently on his next words, her brow on the brink of furrowing. "Maybe we can't find anything about Impa's tribe because they don't want to be found." Zelda couldn't believe what she was hearing as her eyebrows folded and knitted. Or, Link averted his glance, "or maybe we can't find anything because there's nothing to be found." Zelda shook her head, backing away in disbelief, searching desperately within her mind for some rebuttal. The Gorons, we could ask them again, track them down, or the Kikwis, the Prellas, the Magmas, the Vroats, the dragons. You know we've asked them, Zell, and we've looked for the dragons already. Even Levias has disappeared. Zelda bowed her head in submitted acceptance of what Groose was surely punching a wall about at this very moment. The text from Skylaf that we've been researching, Link said, with the courageous logic that Zelda was trying not to let get to her. Well, they're primarily about Hylian and the Hylians. Maybe Impa's tribe wasn't as involved with their race as we thought. But they were there, fighting by our side. They might have, Link said in reply to her insinuation. Zelda wrapped her arms around Link, seeking comfort, and finding it quickly when Link wrapped his arms around her. You blame yourself, don't you? He asked. It was my war they were fighting if they all died for it. Link didn't know what to say, how to truly console her, only holding her tighter. He didn't have the answers to what she was seeking, and he wished he did. Why Impa suddenly disappeared at the end of their journey in a stream of shimmering lights, where her tribe was in the goddess's time, where her tribe was now. For the past year they had pored over each and every book in Skylaf's library. Groose, Zelda, and Link grateful when Crane and Pippet would come down to the surface and help them out. They had all kept plenty busy, Link and Zelda mapping out Hyrule on the side, and Groose constructing houses up in the northern fields. And yet they found nothing. Over a year reading book after text after inscription, and they found nothing on Impa's tribe. It was turning into quite the legend. Look, Zel, we really shouldn't give up hope yet. We shouldn't give up hope just yet. There are still some texts we couldn't translate. Maybe we could try to find the dragons again. Really? Zelda said, only loosening her grip on Link enough to look at his face. On one condition, Link said with a knowing smile, that you go one day without worrying about any of this. Tomorrow seems nice. Zelda let out a small laugh. Yes, tomorrow seems nice. She brought a hand to his cheek, stepping forward with a soft smile. Link's hand brushed her wrist until he held it gently, his head lightly pressing into her hand with closed eyes and a smile. 2 years since she fell in love with him, over a year since he saved her, 3 months since he proposed, but the warmth she felt didn't change.
So, now that we've listened to Fate wonderfully read her fic, let's start off with question numero uno.
Very being on this end. How do you guys do this?
Okay. All right. I have to look at my little list.
I now have a newfound mercy for you guys. Like, this is like really educational. Like, okay, so this is what it feels like to be a guest.
Yes. Now you know what it's like on both ends, right? All right. So here's a question. So, was there anything interesting that you found out in the general Legend of Zelda lore or with the characters when you were researching for this fic?
Oh gosh, there was tons of research.
Yeah.
A lot of the research I did was just to make sure, because I wasn't 100% canon, but I was aiming for like basically 95% canon.
Mm-hmm.
I was really trying to be as canon as possible. And I think I mentioned in the notes where I only made slight changes for my own sanity. Because geographically, Hyrule's not consistent between games, okay?
Oh, no, not at all.
I think the biggest, I guess, what I found really interesting were a couple things, and I think that it's only really a fan theory that, and spoilers, it's only really a fan theory that Zelda's dad in Skyward Sword is the owl, in Ocarina of
I've heard of that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's only really a fan theory, but then when I looked at his wiki page, of course it's not canon, but it fits up so well with the how he looks and like the names and like the timing, you know. And
it's either really convenient or Nintendo just likes reusing a lot of their old little designs and details, right?
And then the other thing that I really and this is another thing about it all falling together is that looking at the Ocarina of Time lore about the origins of the Temple of Time and how it was rebuilt from something destroyed, I was like, oh my goodness, I can destroy the sealed temple and then build the Temple of Time around it. It's like the lore was built for my fic, and it was like, That was a little magic, some little glimpse into the magic of me being like, oh, oh, okay, I don't have to work too hard to make that work. Okay, you know?
Yeah. It was falling in place specifically for your fic.
Oh
I
yeah,
called Nintendo. They
oh yeah.
confirmed it. They
Said that last
Okay. You said
time.
that last time.
So anytime what I was saying is that I wanted to understand what they'd gone through without Link. So I wrote that. Just kind of get context and um be able to approach those changed characters um when I was writing them 6 months later.
Mhm.
Um and I just always found that a really interesting jump because you're now looking at things through Link's perspective. Everything's new. Um as far as what's changed in the Skylofts, and Groose saying things and Crane saying things is like we're in Link's shoes.
Yeah.
And the reason why I couldn't really include any scenes from those 6 months where Link was in the Sacred Realm is because I wanted to keep that
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 perspective. Sort
perspective
of.
of Link coming into this like, okay, lots changed. Uh,
Mm.
it's obviously been a very otherworldly experience he just had in the Sacred Realm because time doesn't really exist there. Um, and there's a lot of this fic is about consequences. And so I've I have released not released. I have shared those like on um not but like those deleted scenes in my Discord before, but I deleted that channel since then. So if there is interest,
Oh.
I could just share them in on Tumblr. But there's definitely some during the 6 month scenes, and then there's some after the fic scenes where like we get a bit more interaction where I'm just like my brain's like plop. I'll put that in there. Like I need like just for my own brain to be like, yeah, this is good because with the ending being the way it is, we only got to see so much. So some of my brain was like, okay, and then we need to do this scene just to be human, and then okay, we're good. You know. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's a couple during the 6 month and a couple during the after the fake, but I didn't include them just because of I liked the perspective of Link and I liked the perspective of Gippora after the yeah.
Yeah. And when this episode goes up, which is today for you viewers, that would be a good opportunity for you if you like re-uploaded those or shared
Yeah,
those like snippets on
I
your
need some
Tumblr and
breaks
stuff,
for them.
right?
Yeah.
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 All right. Let's see. So we kind of went over and like hinted at. Well, I don't know why we're hinting at this because we've said spoiler warnings, but there were a
I
lot
hate
of
thing is
like.
if I haven't finished the fic. It's like now in season oh.
But there's a lot of like difficult and challenging moments, I shall say, like throughout the fic. So what was the hardest part to write, whether it be like technically writing it or maybe just like emotionally handling it, or up to you.
Right. Um difficult. It was I'm not gonna say it was easy. It wasn't I'm not there was no difficult. No, I actually I'm gonna sound like a terrible person. I really enjoyed the angst. I'm just when I got to certain angsty
No,
words,
you
I get to
are
do
you
this.
kid? Have you
Yeah.
been on the internet? No one is gonna think you're a terrible person for
Yeah.
that.
So I was mostly excited about the angst. I was more sad for the characters.
Mhm.
It's difficult. I think it was difficult a little bit writing the death of Kapora.
Yeah.
I know they're not real, but like I knew how much he meant to characters like Groose and Zelda and Link. Um,
Yeah, character death's always like
Mhm.
if
and
they're
the
hard
same
for the reader,
same
imagine how it is for
the
the
same
writer.
way with Indigo was hard because Impa had died too, so it's like here's another Sheikah death. And as far as technically, I had a lot of trouble with the offshoot group. Um, just getting that to work. like why they offshooted and what happened after, and Toby coming in and destroying the temple and trying to. It was a little difficult technically, but I think I got it to work. So that was difficult, but otherwise I had a lot of fun with the Yanks, which is horrible to say, but it's
No, that's
um
probably like a lot of people right for the
and then
Yanks.
I guess another thing I want to say is that like I'd never I've never really read a lot of fics where a character death is because of a mental illness.
Hmm.
Um because I don't know what it is. I guess it doesn't really it's just not prominent. Um but a lot of people when they think about Link's parents' deaths or Zelda's parents' deaths, usually they don't really have the most stable parents. In Zelda games, they think about
Yeah.
full illness or war, and uh, I don't know why, but when I thought about Zelda's mother having taken her own life, it was so unique to me. Because I'd never really thought about something like that before, and it was kind of potent too, because you think of Skyloft as this perfect
Like
place,
paradise.
paradise, but
It's basically
uh,
heaven since it's like in the sky,
I
right?
think that even that is really indicative of what depression is because everything can seem perfect, but
Right.
depression causes things in your brain where it's like there's it doesn't
It
it is
doesn't matter what the
it's its
environment
own
is
it's its
around
own
you.
mental
Yeah.
illness, and it even characters that you think would have perfect lives also go through these things that we go through. Um
Yeah.
And I thought that was really special that I got to put that into the world, and I'm sure it's been done before, but it just for me, it felt special. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was also
Uh,
hard to, like, communicate that, like, without I don't know, but I got it done.
like doing it like in the right way, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
That's my
All right. In a bit of a lighter note, did you have any other did you brainstorm any other name ideas for the daughters of either Link or for either daughter of Link and Zelda?
well, so basically, everyone in Skyloft it's actually another interesting fact. I know a lot of interesting facts about Skyward Sword now. Uh, everyone in Skyloft is named after a bird except for Link and Zelda. So, like, Crane is a crane, Pipit is a bird, they're all named after
Wait,
birds.
Pippin is a bird? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're all named after birds.
The more you know.
Yeah. And, um, I thought it would be interesting to base children that were born on the surface on things that come from the surface instead of
Mm.
things that are in the sky. So, Crane and Pipit's child is Oliver, um, and that, like, comes from, like, the olive plants,
Right. Hmm.
and Azalea, which is what, Link and Zelda's child ends end up being named, is a flower, that blooms from the earth, so that's kind of, like, the difference I wanted to make in it was a big
In those
shift.
generations,
It's
basically,
a big
right?
shift for Skyloft to go from back down to the earth. And I feel like those names, like, cement a whole new tradition, which of course changes throughout Hyrule. mm, But I thought that was a really neat thing that I came up with.
Yeah.
As far as the name of their first, like, unborn child,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
I just thought I was just trying to think of names that would work for either gender. It wasn't too complicated, but now that I think about it, rain is something that falls from the sky, and that's really, really clever. I
Oh,
that's on
damn.
purpose. I hate
No,
oh,
no, it was on purpose. You don't need to edit
that
that
was
out.
I
She
did
was
not
on purpose.
not just think about that 2 minutes ago. Mm, that's really clever.
That is
Wow.
good.
That's what I'm talking that's the magic of the stick.
See,
Okay.
nice.
But yeah, that's I didn't really think of it. I think I just wanted it to be something from the ground as far as Azalea goes.
Yeah.
Um I wanted it to be a flower, and I wanted to connect to other I wanted it to connect to like other scenes in the fic as it does. And I think I was sold on Azalea when I had the last scene where they're like talking about princesses and stuff written a while before a lot of the other stuff. And so when I thought of the phrase Princess Zelda Azalea of Hyrule, I was like, okay, that's it. We're done. That's the name. It works. It works.
It does sound fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you
go. Alrighty. Well, while we're on the sort of topic of characters, who was your favorite character to write, and who was your least favorite to write?
They're so hard.
Hmm?
God, Groose was so fun.
Oh.
I just his like humor, but like bluntness, but like he's such a sweetheart too. And him and Link's friendship was just like, you guys. I loved. He has such good moments, and one of my favorites is when he sees Link in the Seal Temple after Link's waked up, and he just hugs him. Oh, okay, but he cares so much.
He's just a big hugging character, right?
He's just a big teddy bear, and I felt so bad when he couldn't walk, but he it's fine. He had Oriel, it's fine. So Groose was probably the most fun to write. I think Toby was the hardest.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it. It was just to get to a place of. I think it was really hard because Skyloft seems like such a perfect place to get someone who was part of that to get to a place where he's against the people he once thought of as like his like people.
Yeah.
It was hard to get that believable. I hope I did. So I think that was difficult.
May I ask, what inspired you to like create like Toby like as that kind of character? You know, like.
Gosh, I don't know. I just needed. So I think I don't remember if he's actually in. I added some new knights. I don't remember if Toby's actually. I think he is. I think he is one of the knights you see flying around.
I cannot confirm or deny. You are the Skyloft expert, not me.
I'm gonna say I think he is one of the knights because I don't think I would have chosen the name Toby. I needed someone that the audience wasn't completely familiar with. To just impart these things on. And I liked the idea of him being a tad older than the other knights who are like young adults.
Yeah.
Because the older the people were, they're used to tradition, you know. And suddenly they're down here, they can't see the goddess statue. Link's come back from the dead. Things chaos, you know, and he's like, okay, fishy, you know. And I think it just he came from the necessity of needing a villain type character, but I didn't want him to be a villain type character because like
an opposing view, I guess. Like
an opposing view. I didn't want a villain. I didn't want to make up a villain that's like, oh, there's this guy on the surface who's like got like red eyes and stuff. That's you know, I wanted the opposing force to have branched off from Skyloft and to have views that were logical and that when the audience read it, it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Link and Zelda and Groose aren't telling Skyloft everything, and we know why they're not telling them everything, but them not telling them anything is still really suspicious. And so people are gonna get suspicious, they're gonna meet in secret, they're gonna try and go anyway, they're gonna be spiteful about all the interference they're getting, they're gonna think that the goddess wants them to pray to the statue and fight against Zelda, and you know, they're gonna doubt Zelda when she says that she's the goddess because like who's gonna believe that?
Yeah, there's all this like
someone in your neighborhood's like, by the way, I'm a god, like, you know.
Yeah, that's not.
So I wanted
yeah.
it to be a logical opposition. Something that
Yeah.
made sense. Not something that was not an arbitrary, this guy's got a big sword. I don't know why he's fighting him, you know. Yeah.
No, yeah, and I think you definitely succeeded in that because there's like a lot of like conflicting like political and like morality like sort of things, and it's not for the sake of like the typical Zelda like good and evil. Like obviously that's like kind of sort of ingrained in its lore, but I think you did a great job of like developing it into like different like it's like gray, you know, it's not just
very great.
light versus dark. There's different like perspectives and things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely even Zelda and Link have their moments of like, I should have done that, you know, or like Zelda looks back on her time as a goddess, like, well, that was a bad idea, killing all these Sheikah, you know.
Yeah.
So
to
yeah,
say the least.
keep going.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else is on there? I have. All right. I got one more little question for you.
Okay.
So, what do you hope that your readers took from your fic? Whether it be like a favorite interpretation or like a favorite scene or maybe some sort of theme in general?
There's a few things.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main one is to keep going. Just in general, because a lot of the characters face a lot of adversity, and they just keep going. They stick to their beliefs, and they change them when they need to. There's a combination of when those things happen. So I think the main one is to keep going, and that there's always a moment beyond, and that's really cheesy.
Yeah, there's always a moment beyond. Yeah. Roll credits.
I think that's a line in the fic. But I think that's one of them. Another one is to think about different perspectives. Think about morality. I'm really big on having people face their own morality. And then on a lighter note, I want them to be inspired to write because
Hell
of it.
yeah.
You know, like I think one person like sent me a fic that was like, here, I was inspired to write because of you. Here's my fic, and I'm like, yes.
That's amazing, actually.
And then another one, a little more selfish. Please give me art. My friend Emily drew so much art because I begged her. I love this fic so much. And it's like the only fic where I really saw it and heard it as I was writing it and rereading it. It's like, don't be afraid to give me art. I love it. I'm not demanding it. I'm just saying I would be offended. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
If you're listening to this right now and you're an artist, you're obligated to give Faye art for making this podcast a reality, for writing this great fic. Now you just gotta send all the art you can and just flood the inbox right now after finishing this podcast in the next 10 minutes or 5 minutes or however long it's gonna be. That is an order from your host / dictator. That is me. So, and you can't stop me because you can't edit this out because you love me too much too. So yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I think that is. Oh, I have to figure out how to end this. I should have practiced this more. So that is our little Q&A, and that is also the end of this season of Legend of Zelda fic pod. It's a thing that we're doing. That's the thing. Yep, that's this season.
The legendary chapter.
Yes, I know that. That's the words I was gonna say. And again, Fate's fic Moment Beyond is linked in the description along with their Tumblr. We should check them out. Do you want to add anything else? Promote anything else?
What do I have going on? I have nothing going on. Just keep an eye on my Tumblr. I drop stuff there every once in a while.
Follow our Tumblr.
Well, okay, I guess this is the time. So this is the last episode of the legendary chapter of the Behind the Fig podcast, but we have season 2.
Dun dun dun.
Yes, we do. Not a bad thing. Dun 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 dun
Dun dun
dun
dun
dun
dun.
dun dun dun.
There we go.
Da 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 da. We have season 2. Season 2 is going to be the Diamond chapter. I am so good at these titles. This is
Hell
why
yeah.
I'm in charge, because I come up with cheesy titles. It is the Diamond chapter. It is based on so it's gonna be featuring fics based on the 60 current Walt Disney animated movies, and if you so choose, the fairy tales that they're based on. So I explained this pretty well on Tumblr, but basically, you could submit a fanfic based on the Disney movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And this is just an example. Or you could submit a fanfic based on the Brothers Grimm fairy tale Snow White. So it's not only the 60 films, but the 50-odd fairy tales that are associated with those films. So if Disney's problematic, you can just hop on over the fairy tale. It's up to you. We're celebrating fairy tales, we're celebrating Disney, we're celebrating princesses, and all that stuff. And right now, as I speak, you can hop on over the Behind the Fig Tumblr page and apply to
Whoa.
be either a
Right
guest
now.
or a co-host. You don't need to have participated in the legendary chapter at all.
Come on in.
You can come on in. We
Come
like
on in.
you. You don't have to have a Disney fic right now posted. You can just tell me an idea for one that you want to write. That's okay too.
Just
Yes.
apply right now.
Apply. We want you. I'm a little scared I won't have enough people. We want you. So, yes.
Be swag, be cool, be hashtag poggers. Just apply right now. So
it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great season. I have a great feeling.
yes.
And then the first, if you're just dedicated to being a listener, that's cool too. The first episode of the Diamond chapter will release Mayish. So we're gonna take April's gonna be a bit of a hiatus as I figure stuff out schedule wise, and then we'll be seeing some fairy tales.
Hell yeah!
It's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited to see what people come up with. That I know, like people that I know, if they come up with stuff, and people that I get to meet because of this, you know.
We're basically entering a whole new fandom here, so lots of things to look forward to.
We still love The Legend of Zelda, and we will still. I think I want to from now on use the Tumblr page of Behind the Fig a bit more, just to promote other people's fics. So I'm gonna do that a bit more. So we'll still be promoting fics. That's the point of the podcast. But we're switching fandoms for the podcast portion, just so that we get something a little bit fresher.
Yeah.
Although Breath of the Wild 2 is in 2022, so I'm not forgetting about that. So yeah, that's really exciting. Don't be afraid to apply. Even if you've never written a fanfic before, come on in.
Come on in. We'll teach you. No.
Okay.
Well, okay.
So yeah, that's all I have to say. I think I said too much.
No, yeah, I think there's nothing left to say except for goodbye and see you next time.
Thank you for
I'm pointing finger guns at my microphone.
I was not.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See ya.